Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of your lovely hosts, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by our other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the folks.
Hi, folk.
We appreciate everyone for joining us on this Tuesday evening, September 9th, 2025. Josh, we missed last week because there are a couple drafts scheduled on Tuesday, at least for me. I know you were in at least one of them. And, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't want to do it, I guess. That's the glory of being your own boss. You can kind of do the things you want to do when you do want to do them. And you never texted me about it, so I assume you weren't butthurt that we didn't do it. But that's why we were gone last week in short. But we're back. And would you say we're better than ever, or should we not lie to the folks?
Well, I'd say that we're better than ever in areas in which that don't matter for the podcast.
Hell yeah. That's the way to do it. So it's been about 2 weeks since we've been on the air. Anything you want to update the fine folks with?
I'm white. Still got a kid, still got a wife, love them both. Fantasy football is still stupid. And I hate everything to do with it. But yeah, how about you, Gar?
Yeah, I mean, so last time I believe I had hinted at, but it wasn't my place to say, the Hood Pod had lost LMA in tragic fashion. But you know what? When they take away, they give, and we'll talk about that later. But that was a little bit sad. But then we had a good time of celebration. Bradley, the Dark Knight himself, just joined as a listener. We had a lovely weekend for Brad's batch. What was your highlight of the weekend there, Josh?
Oh, it's got to be just the fact that I got to eat food.
That seems like a low bar.
Yeah, Jesse didn't forget to feed us like he said he would. So it's kind of a high bar when you consider it was Jesse's responsibility.
What was your favorite meal of the weekend?
Probably the Cheez-Its.
Are you a fond fan of the extra toasty? Are those your go-to at the store?
No, I like the Ridgies, the originals for those of you with the unhip lingo. But no, actually the lasagna on that last night. I know you and I had a conversation about trying to out fat each other, and I think I won that contest. The burgers were awesome, Brad. I could have probably stormed another 6 more, but I limited myself to three.
Yeah, Brad, I noticed you you asked to speak. Is that legitimate, or you just bump the button? Because I'll happily bring up here to say something silly real quick if you want. But I wasn't sure if you did that on purpose or not. If you just want to type out negative, okay, I didn't think so. So I checked before I just raw invite you up here. But yeah, so we had a lovely time at Brad's bash. I am the master fisherman of the whole group. That was obviously my highlight of the weekend. Everyone's harassed me to go fish. Grab the rod. Less than 5 casts. I caught the big. I don't remember if it was the biggest fish of the weekend. It was, at least up until that point. And fishing ain't that hard, boys. Just gotta try, you know. So, but shout out to Brad and Laura. I guess I don't know what the last name situation is. I'll just say future Mr. and Mrs. Canup for now, while being ignorant. But they will.
Yeah, they'll probably both change their last name to Batman.
That, you know what? That would be fucking sick. But shout out to them. All right, Josh, that's probably enough chit chat. We're about 4 minutes in already. I know didn't have a lot of time. You just so happened to have a work retreat today, but I did take some time, and we won't sit here and do it like we normally do. We normally dedicate a whole show to it. We're not going to do that today, but go through and give some quick and dirty draft grades, and I can link the draft board here if you want to follow along with me.
I got it.
Oh, you got it open?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll put the link here anyway still. So I'm just going to go quick and dirty, and then you can jump in if you'd like to add anything. So sorry to the fans of the Hidden Oaks pod, kind of one of the main reasons we started this show, but most of you don't listen anyways, and if you really want us to give a more in-depth draft grade for your team, we can. Otherwise, we'll just go quick and easy. So as I have for years and years, I have used my very super official proprietary grading system. It says I score teams out of 41. I look at wide receivers and running backs out of a scale of 10. I look at their starters, and that's a base of 10. Quarterbacks, I rank 0 to 9. Tight ends, I rank 0 to 7, and the bench, I rank 0 to 5. So in total, that equals 41. And yeah, we're a 12-team league. Nothing too crazy. Half PPR now. Half point first down, right? Half point first down, right? So anyways, Derek was in the 1 slot. I gave his team a 32 overall. His favorite player on my team was Javonte, the running back for Dallas, and then I did not like him taking Tyreek at the 2-3 turn there. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Josh, how did you feel about Derek's team here?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Tyreek pick. Also, but I do like the wow, can't talk. I don't like I do like the Emeka Egbuka pick. He's especially at where he got him. I mean, 7th round, going to be the wide receiver 2 for a while, I'd say. Not a big fan of the running back situation. Not a big fan of DeAndre Swift. Travion Henderson, we'll see. But yeah, Javonte kind of proved to be a solid pickup in the 8th. So yeah, not bad.
All right, moving on to T. I gave T a 34 out of 41. I liked his team better than most, mainly because of his running backs. He started off with his first 3 picks were all running backs. He went Saquon in the first, then James Cook, second to last in the second, and then second pick in the third was Kyren Williams. So, of course, you're going to have a pretty heavy running back room when those are your first 3 picks. And then my favorite pick of his, though, was DJ Moore. I love the value he got. He got DJ Moore, starting wide receiver, in the start of the 5th round there. And then I really, maybe Jameson was his least favorite pick of mine. But honestly, I think T's got a really solid squad. I graded him as such. And I think T is definitely a top 4 team this year come playoff time. You got any notes, or shall I continue?
I do like the DJ Moore pick. I would have been kind of iffy. I was iffy on Garrett Wilson, but after watching week 1, it does actually, it seems like a solid pick. I would say that his 6 wide receivers in a row, it was a bold move, Cotton. Not the biggest fan of Jameson Williams, I guess, never mind. I'm looking at I don't like Jameson Williams. I was about to say I don't like Josh Downs just based on who we could have gotten after him. But at that point, it doesn't matter. I was looking at the arrow the wrong way. I would have taken Pittman over Downs, but Pittman went before Downs. So, yeah.
All right, moving on to Brian, who I think he was the only person to receive an A grade from the ESPN AI. He thought himself quite the master drafter, and yet
I'm trash.
I beat him. I beat him on the first game of the week, but we can talk about that in a little bit. Anyways, going back to his draft and trying to stay true, I gave him a 30.5 out of 41. I did not like his draft as much. He was a bottom 2 draft for me personally. I'm not saying other people, reasonable people can disagree, but I did not like. So he took Brock Bowers in the second, and I, as we'll talk about later, I was heavily fading Brock Bowers this year. Not that I would have never taken him, but I was not taking Brock Bowers as a 2nd round pick by any means. It's just, with the change of the coaching staff, the change of the quarterback, of course he has all the talent in the world, but Brian's team, especially anchored kind of by Brock Bowers, that's one of your first 2 picks, is one of your main guys. I did not like it, and then I also did not like his wide receivers as much, or his running backs, or his bench. But of course, on a snake draft, all these teams are going to be pretty even. So all my scores are within a range of 7 here. But yeah, I didn't like Brian's team very much. His favorite player of mine was T. Higgins. Hard to miss on one of the best second receivers in the. Did I write Higgins? Jaden Higgins. Sorry, I'm talking about not T. Higgins, but Jaden Higgins. That was a player I was targeting a lot this year. Didn't get many shares of him, but I think he has a great chance for C.J. Stroud to rebound, and then Jaden Higgins to be a big beneficiary of that. So I really like that pick from Brian, and then I really didn't like Jalen Waddle, similar to the reasons I don't like Tyreek Hill this year. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not feeling the Dolphins very much, which is unfortunate because I love Mike McDaniel. But your thoughts on Brian's team?
Not a big fan of Jalen Waddle at the 80, just at all. Not a big fan of Not a big fan of his wide receivers as a whole. I guess Drake London would be the one that I do like the most. He's somebody that I was debating on taking in the second round as well. So the fact that he fell down 6 more picks is pretty impressive or pretty nice. Not a big fan of Jones just because of the comments in preseason about the split with Jordan Mason. But yeah, overall, kind of a mid team is what I would say.
Yeah, and then for what it's worth, the fans can't see the draft board that's in front of me. Brian went running back, then tight end, then wide receiver, then quarterback. And generally, I mean, I'm not going to say never because sometimes the draft board just falls in a crazy way. But generally, whether you go tight end or quarterback early, you usually punt the other one. And Brian did not do that. And I think his team, again, might have suffered just a wee bit for it because not taking your second running back until the 5th is a little bit tough. Without having that stud wide receiver room. So we'll see. I'm not gonna sit here and say Brian can't do good things. Brian has won the championship before. Brian knows what he's doing, but I am not a big fan of his team. Moving on to Josh. Josh, you had the highest grade of anyone, for me at least. I like your draft top to bottom. I think getting CD at 4th was really good for you. Then you followed up with Brian Thomas in the 2nd. You've got some very promising running backs, especially after week 1. Travis Etienne looks even better. Although I tried to grade this as I would have post draft pre-week 1, but that makes your team look even better. As well as Trey Benson. Trey Benson was your favorite player pick of mine. And as far as nays, I really didn't, other than taking 2 tight ends, which I understand why you did because there's some question marks with Kelsey. There's not really any players on your team that I'm like, absolutely not. So yeah, I mean, your wide receiver is going to be your biggest addition. I really like Dak as your quarterback, and you got Dak in the 11th. And between Kelsey and Loveland, Kelsey and Loveland, I think you'll have a solid tight end starting position as well. So I think you've got a really solid team, Josh. This could be your year to return to glory. And other than that one asterisk year where you won when we didn't have tight ends. So we'll see if you can finally reclaim what's rightfully yours. Your thoughts on your
I think it's
team,
an asterisk here because you changed rules without notifying the league.
Anyways.
Yeah, I was pretty happy overall with my draft. Up until T decided to just absolutely steamroll me back up again and then steamroll me once more. My least favorite pick in this is Caleb Johnson in the 8th. Probably should have gone with another wide receiver at that point because I usually do punt the running backs, but I guess I just felt the rookie fever because I went Matthew Golden the pick before. Not a big fan of having Xavier Worthy get injured on the second play by the other guy on the same team on my roster, but it's whatever. We'll see if I can have a bounce back week. If I lose next week, it's over. My team's for sale. Fire sale, fire drop, whatever you want to call it. Get ready on the waivers. Watch out.
All right, moving on to the Hammer Squad, both managed by Ander and Jamie. I gave their team a 33 out of 41. I like their squad a lot. That's one of my higher scores. My favorite pick out of them was Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers in the 5th. He's the best receiver in Baltimore, and again, adding the extra knowledge that he did really well on Sunday night, of course, helps a bit, but I like Zay Flowers a lot anyways. I haven't been Dynasty, so this is a guy I've liked for a while. Their nay pick,
now,
I really don't like.
Guy.
What's that?
Nothing going.
You talking shit, boy? What I don't really like is they took both Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatabo, or however the fuck you say his name. Both are running backs for the New York Giants. I have really moved away from taking my own handcuffs. I'm certainly not afraid of taking handcuffed running backs, but I like to diversify. I usually don't like one of, 2 from the same team on my teams anymore. And on the top of that, you're doing it on a team that's supposed to be really bad. So unless Jackson Dart takes over early and the Giants go on a run, I think having 2 running backs on one terrible squad is not going to work out for them. And so that was my nay. But overall, I think they have a really solid squad. They got Josh Allen, of course, last year, or for multiple years in a row, I've taken Josh Allen. Unfortunately, he did not fall to me at the end of the 3rd round this year. Otherwise, I would have taken him again. But Josh Allen's a stud. And then their wide receivers are stud. They got Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, Jacoby Myers, and Darnell Mooney to round out the room. But yeah, I'm excited for this Hammer squad. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. I don't like their running backs, but
Yeah, that's definitely was the weakest score I gave him. I gave him a 6 out of 10 for running backs. Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, and Cam Scatbo were the first 3 picks. That's tough. But maybe they'll make a waiver wire addition that'll square it all away. Moving on to the Jer Bear, Mr. Pribbernow. I gave him a 31 out of 41. He was kind of middle of the pack. His favorite player of mine was Keenan Allen in the 10th. Again, another player I wanted a lot of shares of. Didn't get that many shares of, but Keenan Allen I think is going to be a very solid pickup. Probably going to be in your flex most weeks if I had to guess. I really did not like the Rachaad White pick. Of course, Rachaad White, falling star is a better way to put it. Falling star of the Bakerneers. Bucky Irving, it's his show now, of course, but I feel like most talk is that it's going to be the Sean Tucker into that number 2 role. And not that long. I don't know. It seems like Sean Tucker's coming. It's an inevitability. So I think Rachaad White is a falling stonk, as the kids would say. So I didn't like that pick very much. But overall, pretty solid squad from Jeremy. I think, if his team can stay healthy and, a couple other the top teams have an injury or two, I could see Jeremy as a top 4 team as well. Any thoughts, Josh?
Not a big fan of the Chris Olave pick, mainly because Chris Olave did me dirty last year. So, yeah.
You're holding grudges?
Yep.
I respect that. All right, moving on to the Gare Bear, my fellow gentle golden giant. I gave Gare Bear also a 31 out of 41, another middle of the pack team for me. He went running back to start Ashton Genty and Bucky Irving, though. And I don't know, with Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry still on the board when Garrett picked, I understand the Ashton Genty pick. Usually I'm a big rookie running back guy, but I feel like Ashton Genty was being drafted at his absolute ceiling, whereas I remember specifically when Josh Jacobs was a rookie, I got him in the second round, I think, middle of the second round. And so, I think Ashton Genty is going to be a really good player, but I think he could have gotten more production out of that draft pick had he gone CMC, Derrick Henry, or Achane. Maybe even Josh Jacobs or Jonathan Taylor as well. So I think I think Garrett had 2 decent first picks, but I also don't like Bucky Irving as much. I was fading him a bit this year. His squad is saved by having one of the other top 2 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, and then he hits receivers hard with DK Corland and Jerry Jeudy to round out the starting squad. So I think he'll be fine. Mark Andrews was one of his least favorite picks of mine, but then I also didn't like Xavier Legette. I do like Michael Pittman. We talked about him a little bit earlier. The value in the 8th, I think, was there. So we'll see for Garrett. I'm less convinced about Garrett than I am about Jeremy, but the score ends up being the same. Any thoughts from you, Josh?
Nope.
All right, moving on to Brad, our one and only
Trash.
lister right now. Whoa, Josh, how dare you?
Trash?
Brad started off with Puka Nacua, then with Josh Jacobs, and then Jaden Daniels in the 3rd. Overall, I gave Brad a 32 out of 41, so he ranked just above some of the other teams I was just talking about, Jeremy and Garrett. I do have him ranked, what is this? He's technically ranked 7th, so just below the median, but it's close. I mean, most of these teams are close. It's a snake draft after all. How much differentiation can there be unless someone really fucks up their draft? Keon Coleman was his favorite pick of mine. He picked him up in the 9th, and I've talked a little bit of trash about Keon Coleman in the offseason. Still, I think the most upside, the best option out of Buffalo. And if what we saw on Sunday night is what is to come, then I think that'll be a very solid pick for Brad. We'll probably definitely end up starting over Khalil Shakur. Might even take the spot for Marvin Harrison, depending on how his season goes. But I love that pick. I do not love T.J. Hawkinson. Definitely do not love T.J. Hawkinson in the 5th. I think he's going to be, especially when Addison comes back, I think Hawkinson is going to be maybe our 4th option. Probably the 3rd, maybe the 4th, and I think his stonk is trending down a bit. But yeah, Brad, overall decent squad, saved by Jaden Daniels at quarterback, which I think will carry him and score plenty of weeks. Any thoughts on Brad's squad, Josh?
Yeah, not a big fan of the TJ Hawk pick, or the, hang on. Not a big fan of the TJ Hawkinson pick. Sorry, my screen was going bonkers. Big fan of the Dylan Sampson pick, because it looks like he already took over as the lead, 3rd down back. And then when Quinshon Judkins gets reinstated and back. He's expected to be the starter, but Sampson could still potentially provide some benefit in the half-point PPR. He made a lot work with the touches he had.
Yeah, I mean, they said that him and Jerome were going to split, and that wasn't the case at all. And Sampson might have shown enough, even though Cincinnati's defense is absolutely fucking
Trash?
Dylan Sampson might have showed enough to get some more of an even split once Judkins is out there. So we'll see. But yeah, Brad, good luck. He also has Bill Krosky on his team. I'm surprised you didn't mention that, but that all looks to be another promising upside pick he took in the 6th round as well. Moving on to Jesse's squad. Jesse, I did give the absolute worst draft grade, unfortunately.
You're just like me. Trash.
He went Amon-Ra and Jonathan Taylor and Ladd in his first 3 picks. George Kittle should have been a fine draft pick. I'm not dinging him for George Kittle getting banged up. That's not his fault, and I wouldn't have known that before week 1. But I think he definitely reached on J.J. McCarthy in the 8th. I didn't think it was necessary to take him there, especially when Kyler, Justin, Dak, Brock, all those guys were still there. Did he go? And he even went before Bo Nix? Yeah, he went before Bo Nix. So I'm not a fan of that for Jesse. Jesse could have got J.J. McCarthy in the 11th round probably.
Free agency.
Yeah. I really did like the Rome Odunze pick. That's another player that I was hoping to get. Didn't fall my way in most drafts, but I think so J.J. McCarthy was the lowest quarterback score I gave. His running back room does not impress me. Behind Jonathan Taylor, he has Tony Pollard and then maybe Tootin, which again, trying to just use post-draft knowledge. Tootin stunk, did just go up, but it's still behind ETN. So he has rough starters, rough backups, and then, I don't know. I'm just not impressed by Jesse's squad, but we'll see. Any thoughts, Josh?
I don't mind the Pollard pick, mainly because he is going to be the bell cow with what's his name out for a few weeks.
Tajay Spears.
The Rome Odunze pick. Yeah, Tajay Spears. The Rome Odunze pick prior to week 1, I would have said it was a solid pick. After week 1, yeah, he scored a touchdown, but Caleb looks like he is a blind giraffe trying to touch his toes with his nose. And so it was unwatchable football for the majority of the night as just a watcher of football. But yeah, I don't mind that. I don't like his depth as far as wide receivers or running backs go, though.
Yeah, we will. We'll see. We've been wrong before, but for me, Jesse's got the worst squad, and that's why he's the dumpster fire. Moving on to your lovely wife, potentially most loyal listener, Nikita. She goes CMC, followed by AJ Brown, which is not a pick I love, and then Devontae Adams in the 3rd. I overall gave Nikita a 31 out of 41, but she was a bottom 3 team for me, just in how I kind of roughly butt my gut to the tiebreakers. Baker, I really love that pick from her. She picked him up in the 6th round, which I think is probably right around his ADP, maybe even a little bit of a discount. If you look at our draft board, we're getting a lot more disciplined. We're not skewing from ADP very often, so I think taking that kind of mid-tier quarterback right where you're supposed to. Our league's getting pretty disciplined, so I like that. She's in that right spot. I did not love Devontae in the 3rd. If you look at the guys that were still on the board there, Mike Evans I would like over Devontae, Marvin Harrison maybe, DK for sure, JSN for sure, Xavier Worthy prior to injury for sure, maybe even Garrett Wilson. I don't know. I know you're a Devontae lover, but just he was the clear number 2 in the on the Rams, and I don't know. So I faded her a bit for that pick, but overall I think she's a decent squad. David Njoku, potentially a question mark, but she picked up a 2nd tight end. She's got Kincaid. She's the only person to take 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends, but she gave herself a little bit of insurance, but also that hurts her depth a bit. But overall, Nikita is almost always a top 4 team, so we'll see. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, Njoku is. I thought Njoku was fine. He was pretty solid all last year. Kind of a top tight end. And so as far as where she got him, I would say that's pretty, he would have been the next most likely drafted. And so got him there. I like the Baker pick. Yes, I like Devontae Adams. I like him more. I like him more than some of the guys there. I probably would have gone JSN or Marvin Harrison over him. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows what happens. He got 5 targets or 5 catches in week 1, so maybe he gets more. But there have been talks about the rapport with him and Stafford all offseason. I think the running backs are pretty solid. Obviously CMC at 9 or 10 is not bad. Calvin Ridley has had some, growing pains with Cam Ward, but that should be okay. And then, yeah.
All right, well, good luck, Nikita. Again, she, I'm certainly not trying to doubt her, but just I'm not impressed with her squad as it starts this year. But Nikita's going to be on the waiver wire, and we know she's going to be a warrior. She's going to be grinding out that team, so we'll probably see her in the playoffs no matter what I say. Moving on to the best squad there is, my team. No, I ended up giving myself a top 4 grade. I gave myself a 33 out of 41. It's interesting because usually for this draft, this is my first draft of the year, if not one of my first drafts of the year, because we usually do it the weekend before Labor Day. That didn't work out this year for a couple different reasons, which is totally fine. But I know during the draft my attitude was different, and not having to worry about the stickers and just having things be online. Maybe my mind was at ease a little bit more, but I was just kind of pulling the trigger on guys I wanted versus trying to follow rankings so much. And I think that helped me and hurt me along the way. My first 3 picks were running backs. So of course, I gave myself a 10 out of running backs. I got Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, and Alvin Kamara. Feel really good about those starters, and having probably one of them will be, my flex player every week as long as there's no buys. Ended up picking Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback. Maybe I didn't need to go Mahomes there, but as I was sitting there in the draft at the 5-6 turn, I was really looking for a stack. And at that time, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were still available. And of course, I was not guaranteed to get Kelce, 22 picks later. But at the time, I was like, if I can grab Mahomes and Kelce here, I'll be pretty happy. So that's one of the main reasons why I went Mahomes. Otherwise, yeah, my receivers are not as good. When my first 3 picks go running back, I've got Mike Evans, Devonta Smith, and then Rashee Rice. Hopefully, after his suspension, maybe one game worth of rust, and he'll be solid come the second half of the season. I can make a playoff push, but if people want to fade me for taking Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison, I understand. My favorite pick for myself was Tyler Warren. Wanted to get him on a team. This is the only team I have him on, so I made him my namesake. And then, Addison was my least favorite pick, just because I didn't need to go Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison. I did it because I was hoping there were the highest upside guys there, since I had kind of faded wide receiver, but we'll see what happens. Josh, what do you think about my squad?
Yeah, I like your team. I do think it's funny that you drafted Alvin Kamara after burying Nikita for taking him last year.
I was wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong.
But then, we'll see how Devonta Smith does. That entire wide receiver core struggled in week 1. Obviously hard to gauge based off of that. But, the 2 suspended receivers is, bold choice. I do like Tyler Warren. Not a big fan of Malik Washington. That entire Miami team should probably be shot into the sun and forgotten. But yeah, we'll see, Gar.
All right, moving on to the final team. Eric, he ended up going wide receiver at the 1-2 turn. He took Neighbors and Nico, and then followed up with Joe Burrow and Chuba Hubbard. Overall, I gave Eric a 32 out of 41. He was my 5th ranked team. Eric, again, he's the reigning champ. He had I don't remember if he chose his draft. I think he did. I think he chose 12. I think he was one of the last 3 to pick along with me. But Eric's always got a solid squad. Eric knows what he's doing. I don't know if he just uses the same cheat sheet every year from like a really reputable source, or if this guy is just in the research and knows what he's doing. But Eric, always solid. My biggest question mark for him is at running back, with Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery, and Jalen Warren being his projected starters. That's a little tough. I did say that David Montgomery / Tucker Kraft were my favorite players for him, and then Jaden Reed. At least at the time of the draft, there was a lot of talk about his foot injury, so I was fading Jaden Reed myself, so I didn't love that. And I carried that over despite us watching him ball out a little bit in week 1. But if anything, maybe he lacks a little bit of depth, having taken 2 quarterbacks. But I don't know. Eric's always solid. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think he's always solid. I like the... Not so sure I like the Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, since they're on the same team, but at the same time, they spread the ball around enough, and they both got touchdowns in week 1. So I don't mind his running backs as much. David Montgomery being, a handcuff, but he is also kind of like a 1B when it comes to the number of carries he's going to get. Chuba Hubbard's been a reliable running back. To get him in the early 4th isn't bad. So yeah, I would say he's pretty solid.
All right, well, those are our quick and dirty draft grades. Maybe rambled a little bit longer than I wanted to, but fuck it. Just to go over my scores one more time, since I have a scoring system and Josh doesn't. I had Josh first, T second, the Hammers third, Garlic fourth, Eric fifth, Derek 6th, Brad 7th, Jeremy 8th, Garrett 9th, Nikita 10th, Brian 11th, and Jesse dead last in 12th with my super official, super accurate draft grading system. With that, Josh, unless you have any other more comments about the draft, we can move on to our more general fantasy stuff. Again, these are normally 2 separate shows, but we'll fit them in here in one. We've got our season-long studs and duds. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's cruise, because I didn't know how long we're gonna go, so I didn't bring a snack down here.
Oh no, he's hungry. All right, Josh, go ahead and just to remind the people, studs and duds. A stud is someone who, we make it very simple. A stud is someone who overplays their projection. A dud is someone who underplays their projection. We're looking at the whole season for 2025 here. So that's the game we play. It's that simple. And we do one of each starting position. So quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. 8 players total. Go ahead, Josh.
So for my stud this year, my stud quarterback, I went out and I picked Michael Penis Jr. He's rostered in 20% of leagues roughly. He's projected 292.34. Only reason behind it is he's getting a full year of starting. He's got Drake London. He's got Bijan Robinson to check down to, and he's got Michael Pitts.
All right, I went with Geno Smith. I don't remember exactly what the rostered rules were, but I figured they'd be a little bit more flexible with quarterbacks. I mean, he's a starting quarterback. He's certainly not bottom of the barrel by any means. He's projected 307. Geno Smith was rocking it under Pete Carroll, and all him and Pete Carroll did was move to a different city. So I think Geno Smith should absolutely smash it. And he was the passing leader, 2 years ago or something like that? Maybe 3 years, whatever. The dude's a stud, and he'll air out the ball. So I really like Geno Smith this year. I definitely think he'll smash that 307 projection. Moving on to running back, I put Trey Benson. I might have taken him 2 years ago as well. Or no, he was just a rookie last year. Forget what I'm saying. He's rostered in about 52% of leagues. He's projected 130.
I'm a dum-dum.
I am a dum-dum. He's projected 138. We already saw in week 1. It's hard to not use the week 1 knowledge, but him and James Conner were much more even than maybe some people were expecting. James Conner himself is projected almost 270. I think that's insane. I think Trey Benson, they drafted him for a reason. James Conner's a good player. Great story. If you're not familiar with the story, James Conner beats cancer, all this and that. But yeah, I think it's going to be Trey Benson time more and more this year, and I think he'll smash that 138. Josh?
I originally had Dylan Sampson, and then I looked and saw that he was projected to get like 210 points, according to ESPN. Didn't realize that was going to be his projection on the year when guys who are, starters and stuff are only projected like 100 less. So I went with his heir apparent in Quinshon Judkins, who's rostered in 52% of leagues, who's projected only 51.34 points. Thanks, ESPN.
Yeah, I really struggled with their projections, especially for running backs. I thought they were crazy. So that was I had a really hard time picking my player. So I'm with you.
Yep. Yeah. Moving on, my running back's teammate in the wide receiver slot, Cedric Tillman, rostered in 43% of leagues, 152.76 is his projection. I mean, Joe Flacco, he's elite, as some might say. So if he's tossing that pigskin, he's going to be tossing it a lot. So I think that it'll be Cedric Tillman who gets the benefit of being the wide receiver 2 and drawing lesser coverage than Jerry Jeudy, and they'll be playing from behind by a lot because the Browns are terrible.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Flacco's out there, I think he's got a good shot to be solid. Moving on to a player I talked about a little bit earlier, Jaden Higgins, who is on that trashy Skybusters team. He is the number 2 receiver for the Texans, in my mind at least. He's rostered in about 57% of leagues. He's projected 150. Technically, Christian Kirk is there to compete with him, but I don't think it's going to be much of a competition over time. I think Jaden Higgins is definitely going to be that number 2. I expect CJ Stroud to take another step forward after that sophomore slump, and so I really like CJ Stroud and Jaden Higgins this year, but I think Jaden Higgins should smash that 150 projection, no problem. Also just mentioned not too long ago, Tyler Warren. He's my tight end stud pick this year. He's rostered in 89% of leagues. He's projected 152.2. I think he definitely will do better under Danny Dimes. And after that week 1 performance, Danny Dimes, I think, has earned himself a bit of a leash here to, I don't think it's not a one bad game and done situation for Danny Dimes, I guess is how I'll put it. So I really like Tyler Warren's prospects even more. And I think he'll be a really good tight end. Josh, who do you like for tight end this year?
Oh, that was going to be my tight end pick, but I ended up going with Jonnu Smith. I was going to go with another Brown, Fannin, but I decided that just makes me look like a fan of the Browns, and I can't have that happen. So I went with Jonnu Smith. He's rostered in 22% of leagues, projected 122.47. He's kind of the gadget player in Pittsburgh. Rodgers already hit him for a touchdown in the year, so we'll see if that trend continues.
Love it. Let's move on to our duds, Josh. I'll start this time. I don't like Drake May this year. I did have a little bit of hard time struggling to predict my dud quarterback here. I normally go with like a top 5 guy. For some reason, I wasn't feeling this year. I felt pretty good about most of the top quarterbacks, so I went Drake May just because I had to pick someone. He's projected 330.9. Yeah, I don't know. My heart tells me that they just don't have a solid squad. They have a bunch of wide receiver 3s, it feels like. So Drake May might struggle from that. There's also been a lot of turnover in the coaching position, so there's not a lot of consistency. With time, I think this kid has a lot of talent. I remember coming out of college, I was a fan of his, but yeah, I think he just needs maybe one more year with Vrabel, and this kid will be solid, but not this year for me at least. What about you, Josh? Who's your dud?
I went with Patrick Mahomes. He's projected 375.24. That is almost 50 points more than he scored last year, and he's missing Rashee Rice for 6 games, which is about what he missed last year. And then Travis Kelce had that step back last year. Xavier Worthy, he might be missing time. That wasn't necessarily factored in when I was making this pick, but
Even
scoring,
better.
so just figuring that, he's hitting that projection's tough, especially when they struggled on offense last year and seem to continue to do that this year. Moving on to running back, I picked the rookie that was drafted in the first round of most drafts. I went with Ashton Genty. Not to say that he's going to be a bad pick or a bad player, but 316.8 rookie running back on a bad offense. Figured I'd just roll the dice on that.
All right, I like it. I don't think I've done this before, but correlating my running backs here, I thought Trey Benson was a stud, so that means I've got James Conner as a dud. He's projected almost 265. I think that's way too high for James Conner. Again, lovely person, a great story. I don't really like him in fantasy this year, so I am fading him heavily. Also fading Tyreek Hill. This isn't original. I think most people are. I thought about going with someone else, but I guess this is the glory of doing the notes first. I got to pick the players I wanted, and we usually don't repeat, so I got to pick Tyreek Hill, but I think you would have pretty confidently picked Tyreek Hill as well, given the chance.
C.
What's that?
I said C.
Yeah. He's projected 246.6, and I just think there's no shot. Big Hoss. What about you, Josh?
I picked Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's in an offense without the creative mind of Ben Johnson, the fourth quarter fumbler. But Amon-Ra projected 264.9. Another reason is just because every year I seem to pick some player that's on my roster, and this year I actually drafted Amon-Ra for the first time ever, so it's guaranteed that he's going to get 100 or less.
Okay, your final dud?
My final dud is in a tight end position. I went with TJ Hawkinson, projected 164.45. He's got a rookie quarterback, or not a rookie quarterback, but he's got a first-year quarterback who struggled for 3/4 of a game, then turned it on. But I still think Hawk ended the game with 1 reception, maybe 2. So he wasn't looking that way. May have played a role in that, but prior to that, I would have had him as my dud just because of the young quarterback situation.
Right on. And I promise I would have made this pick were it not for the potential injury. If you want me to change it, that's fine. I've got a second dud right in the barrel. But I really, as I talked about earlier, I did not like Brock Bowers this year. I was not drafting him anywhere near his ADP, and so I didn't get him in any leagues. He's projected 237.6. I don't believe it. Another dud would be Mark Andrews. I don't believe him either. So I know it's convenient that Brock Bowers might be hurt. That's not why I'm picking him as a dud. But yeah, I'm fading that guy hard. As an exercise I did, I won't spend any more than, a minute or 2 on it, but a lot of other guys, because one of the things that fascinated me was I wanted Jaden Higgins a lot this year. I thought he was going to be an undervalued player. And his ADP, as far as I could tell, was in the 120s, which would be like a 10th round pick. But I feel like my experience with Jaden Higgins was he was going no later than the 7th round in most of my drafts, maybe the 8th. But so I just never got, because he was never on my radar until I was getting close to where his ADP was around, and maybe I was going to take him around early, but then I put him in the queue and then he'd just be gone. So I was just, he's one of those players I really wanted, but I could never get because for whatever reason, his ADP, he was just getting drafted higher. I don't know if there's a certain cheat sheet out, maybe like the ESPN default draft sheet just had Jaden Higgins ranked much higher than whatever resources I was using, but I thought that was interesting. So just some other guys I jotted down here. I won't list them all, but there's players I liked and there was players I was avoiding, either at their ADPs or just altogether. So I just made a list for myself of guys I liked to see how they finished the year, to see if my gut was right, and players I didn't like. But yeah, I couldn't get much Dak. I think Jackson Dart is the starter by week 5. George Pickens I was excited for, but I could never get a share of. Alik Ayomanor, however you say his last name, out of Tennessee, I think is interesting. I think Tucker Kraft should have a really good year. Guys I was fading hard: Brock Purdy, Bucky Irving, AJ Brown, Tay, at least at his ADP. I would have taken him happily in maybe the 4th round, but he was going, earlier than that most places. And end of the 4th round probably. But yeah.
AJ Brown's ADP is not 1.6.
What's that?
His ADP is not 1.6. I don't know where you got that bonkers.
For who?
Round? Oh, it probably means 2.6 because he's ADP 18.
For where? I'm so confused right now. Which one?
AJ Brown, you have ADP 18.7, round 1.6.
Yeah,
I think
so that
mean 2.6.
Sure, yeah, it's not accounting for it would be starting at 0. I guess I should have done the formula plus 1, but you are correct. It would be after round 1. It would be halfway through the 2nd round. You are correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just the way I did the formula, quick and dirty. So he would be drafted in the 2nd round. Yep, mid 2nd round, and I did not like him at that ADP. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
But yeah, so I just took a list for myself, and we'll see. I'll update that at the end of the year. Otherwise, Josh, I mean, I guess I was curious if your snack list, I'm sure you're getting antsy here, but just similar to that, is there any guys, since you've done all your drafts now, you don't have to worry about any competitive edge or advantage, were there any guys you found yourself either happening to draft a lot just because of how the draft boards fell, or guys you were targeting, or guys that were always, available to you later in the draft and you were just avoiding? Like any players like that you were for or against this year?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because the only leagues that I drafted in, I guess ETN at his ADP was somebody that I was trying to get in most leagues. Roma Dunze was one. I think I only got them in one league each though. Chuba Hubbard was another one that I was willing to take at his ADP. Other than that, not really. And so that's probably why I stink.
Maybe. I won't go over my exposure thing. That's another exercise I do just because I try and diversify my teams the best. And so I took a list of all my fantasy teams and just saw how much overlap there was. Didn't have any players in redraft on the majority of my teams, or when you add in Dynasty, there was no single player that was on, more than half of my teams. Mike Evans is my most popular player, both in redraft and in Dynasty. But other than that, pretty diversified this year, so we're happy with that. Of course, that can take some joy away because if you hit on a player and you hit on him in every league, that's going to be nice, but I prefer the diversification option. I feel confident since you didn't have any time today. You didn't really look into the player exchange thing? Like the stock thing?
I did not, no. I saw the note on that or the text and I was like, whoops. I will say that you guys better watch out and champs branch out. I might not even pick up a free agent when you guys get cut. I might just keep my team the entire year.
I suppose we don't have to do this on air this second, but we have a roughly 18 side bets in the hopper, and I was thinking of just doing like you can just do an online wheel and just spin for whichever order they come out in. So I don't know if whatever the fairest way is to determine side bet order, but we got to get on that since the season has started. So that was just another note I jotted down. And then
I had done that already.
Oh, okay. So you already
like the one that's there that is so I just did I just highlighted the list of 18 and then did the view more, sell, and then randomize.
Okay, perfect. Okay, because it said 24 down here, so I wasn't sure. It did look like you had updated the sheet, so I'll just update that to 2025.
Yeah. So the week 1 through week 14 are what it came out to be after I did it 5 times. I just did random.
Okay, perfect. All right, well then I'll share that list in the group chat a little bit later. And then I guess, are you still cool? Obviously, I don't expect you to have the answer right or the result right now, but are you still cool mainly being the guy in charge of side bets?
Yes, sir. I won weeks 1 through 14.
Imagine that. All right, so that's cool. Appreciate that. I'll share that list later.
I already can't win week 1 because I didn't win week 1.
Ooh, that is a struggle. It'd probably be if whoever started Xavier Worthy, if they won, that's probably them.
That was me. I didn't win. I just told you, Gar.
I forgot you had Xavier Worthy. I'm so sorry. Okay. Grain of salt, really quickly, Josh. Obviously, you have not. You've been talking. There's been a lot of foreshadowing. You've been very pessimistic about your week 1. Did you want to very quickly give the people your grain of salt for how you started off the fantasy season?
Yep, I'm in leagues that got me a total of 3-3 because I didn't count the champs branch out since I stayed alive in that one, and we're not doing eliminations yet. Yep. I will say,
he's dying.
I will say that if we were going head-to-head, Walters would have lost by over 100 points because my team is that much more superior than his.
You killed it in the champs league for week 1. That was crazy.
But I'm expected to get the lowest score the next 2 weeks in a row to end up with one of the lowest 3 scores to be eliminated in week 4. So yeah. Other than that, 3-3. Lost against the medium and Victoria's Secret. Lost against the T and the median and redraft. Won in both the dynasty leagues. Overall, using the intellectual property of Joshua Allen Bunker Incorporated plus Asher, I went 35-24 for 59.32% win rate. My worst being the Hidden Oaks redraft, losing Xavier Worthy, and then just having a down game from a couple other players really threw a cramp in there. But I did beat Eric, and he's the reigning champ. So, if so facto, mi champo.
You can't argue with that.
Along with everybody else in the league, I guess.
Right. So I guess so obviously 3-3 is probably not the start you would want. Do you think it was more so you just had like some of your guys just had bad week 1, so you're going to bounce back? Or are you feeling lukewarm about some of your drafts at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're looking at it the Hidden Oaks redraft, I was a little bit disappointed, just bad weeks around that. With the Victoria's Secret League, I did get a win playing against Glick, but I lost to the median, and that was with down weeks from Terry McLaurin, Amon Ra, and David Montgomery. So we'll see if they can turn that around. I guess Jonathan Taylor also had a down week for his typical standard. But then next week we'll see. I plugged in Bill, and then hopefully Bill can get me some more points over Montgomery.
Okay, so you're not. So I know you like to joke and be dramatic and stuff, but overall you're not too doom and gloom just yet.
No, not yet. Starting week 3, that's when I'll start to really pull out the flowers.
Gotcha. And as we've talked about for years and years in the show, week 1 is the most wonky week, both for real life NFL and for fantasy. So no one should go crazy yet. And that's foreshadowing into our Brad's question here, which will end the show. But just quickly for me, I ended up going fucking 4.5 and 2.5. I got a goddamn tie in one of my fantasy leagues, and then my most expensive fantasy league. And I mean, that's annoying, but at the same time, it is what it is. If that's the difference between me and the playoffs, I'll be very sad, but what can you do? But yeah, 4.5 and 2.5 out of 7 leagues, and then remaining alive in both guillotines. I'll take that. I feel like that's a pretty decent week 1. Could be better, could be worse, but starting out hot in the redraft league, beating Brian by just 0.05, that feels the best, I think. Of course, after Brian was so cocky about his draft and everything else. So as it looks in the leagues, I have a 64.29 win percentage, and then using the intellectual property Joshua Allen Bunker Incorporated, my week 1 was 56.5 to 37.5, so that's a win percentage of 60.11. So looking at the difference between those two, it looks like I got slightly luckier than what the percentages indicate, but it is what it is, and I'm just gonna keep thriving. So we've talked about all this week 1 crap, Josh, and I promise after this question we'll let you go. But Brad was kind enough to give us some free content, so we have to answer his question. Brad asks, is week 1 for fantasy the most volatile week for managers to start the right players, seeing as players get established in their new teams / offenses / game plans, as well as rookies and young bucks popping off, in addition to veterans potentially falling off? Veterans might be a more volatile play later in the season as wear and tear creeps in. Just some food for thought. I was looking at scores and I know there's points left on everyone's benches every week, but appeared to be more prevalent and was wondering if there was correlation or your thoughts on the above. So what do you think, Josh? Do you think week one is the most... Do you find yourself really struggling week one with your starts and sits, essentially, is the question?
Yeah, I think that it is kind of like get a feel for things. Obviously, there are going to be studs that you're going to know are going to get the bulk of things. CMC, Derrick Henry. The starting running backs are usually probably the most stable in their environment. I would say, as far as exposure or usage. Usage is the word I was looking for. Wide receivers, if they're getting a new quarterback, if they are on a new team, then it might be, a feeling out period to where, midway through the season or a few weeks in, it's going to be when it kind of clicks and they start to be a little bit more of a stable presence in your lineup.
Gotcha. For me, I at least for the way I play fantasy, I do not struggle with start sit in week one at all. My take on it is, unless there's like a really bad matchup, I just start the guys I drafted to be my starters. I feel like I look at it pretty simply. Other than if so let's say I went really heavy wide receiver or really heavy running back, and then the other position is the one I might be a little bit iffy on because they're all essentially, probably wide receiver 2s or running back 2s. Then there's a little bit more give for me in the start sit, but then it's usually just one position or two. But for me, week one, I just start the studs, start the guys I drafted to be starters, and see how it shakes out. I know week one is crazy. It is volatile. There's going to be some unexpected players that pop off. Some of them are here to stay. Like Bill, I think we're going to see plenty more production out of Bill. Some of them I think are flashes in the pan. Week one flukes like Quentin Johnston. I am not... excuse me. I'm not putting much money into the Quentin Johnston. I won't be putting much fab money on him, I guess is the way to say it. Maybe Hollywood Brown. But yeah, some players, week one performances are real and some are not. So I just start my studs and I go from there. And then the follow-up question, Walters had actually answered in the chat, and then his just follow-up question was, or Brad's was to Walters, do you think bad week one or a bad start and you're out of it? So do you think how you start the season really sets the pace for everything, or do you not put that much weight into it?
I put all the weight into it, but it's probably not the good thing, not the right thing. Yeah, I would say a strong start is helpful, but I've had leagues where I start 4-0 or 5-0 and I don't make the playoffs, or I one and done, or I just limp into the playoffs. So I think that, you generally get a better feel for your team about week 5.
Sure. Yeah, and I think I definitely, of course, I want every win I can get. So if that means I have to stack six wins in the first 9 weeks and then I skate for a couple weeks but still end up making the playoffs and get hot at the end, that's totally fine by me. I just want as many wins as I can get. Do I think a bad week one or a bad start and you're out of it? Definitely not. The only time I can see, and it's out of your control, is if one of your top 3 draft picks in a given league, if they get a season-ending injury or like an 8+ week injury, I think that is, that's not going to help you at all, and you're losing when you're one of your biggest point contributors that you projected on your team. But that's not your fault. So of course that can tank some seasons, but otherwise, no. It's the cliche football talk you hear in most press conferences these days, but every week is a 1-game season. Week one doesn't have to mean that much. If anything, just do a pulse check on your team. Make sure. I think week one is one of the most important weeks to be paying attention. And I think the sage advice is to spend your fab early, because most people sit on it till the end of the year and then end up not spending much of it. So if you want to, and if you feel like there's a hole or two on your team, go be aggressive on the fab. But of course, it's still important to be smart with that and pick up the right players. Try and find out the gold from the fool's gold and all that. But no, I definitely don't think, if you lose the first 3 weeks or, you lose week one, I don't think you're out of it. I think you can definitely recover a season, no problem. But of course, every win helps. So that's it, Josh. We got you out of here in under an hour. I'm sorry to leave your tummy grumbly, but we had a lot to do. Next week should be much shorter. We don't have all these bonus segments. Hopefully next week we'll have some sort of podcast play along thing. We'll look into that player exchange thing, whether it's that or something
Strip
else.
Poker.
What's that?
Strip poker.
Well, strip poker is also an option. But no, so we appreciate the question for Brad. Shout out to Al, who was at the Bear games and watched that amazing comeback. I won't sit here and make Josh talk about week 1 football because we've been an hour, so we'll talk more about regular football stuff next week. Anything else you want to say, Josh, before you get out of here?
Go Packers.
Go Packers. We love it. Josh, go get yourself that snack. And yeah, congrats to Bradley again. We had an amazing weekend celebrating. Sorry we missed last week, but we should be here pretty consistently. We'll maybe miss a week or two for, I don't know if someone has to travel or something. But all right, goodbye, everybody. We love you.
Go Packers. There's a zesty in my testy and it hurts. Boom, boom.